I haven't made a video in a hot minute, and I'm just coming in here to do it. I thought I'd go back to my roots, meaning my parents' house, meaning my childhood bedroom, meaning that there's detritus on that desk right there. My roots, to kind of give a little update, a little moment about everything I've read so far in 2023. I could have told you what my favorite books are in 2022. I ended up reading a lot of books, but where's the mystery in that? First title I'd like to talk about is a dark academia title. It is called The Cartographers. It is by Penn Shepard. This book is about a group of cartographers, as the title would suggest, who gallivant around New York City. You're the most devious bastard in New York City. You can tell I'm out of practice in the long form video. Cartographers is a really fun mystery about a young woman who is estranged from her father. She has lost her prestigious job at the New York Public Library in the cartography department, and she ends up getting involved in this mystery after her father is murdered. She basically finds out through talking to her father's peers and friends from his college degree and his graduate program what sort of transpired 20, 25, 30 years ago when they were postgrads. It has a bit of magic, it has mystery, it has a thriller aspect. It's a really fun book, and the audiobook is full cast. So the next book is Your Table is Ready, Tales of a New York City Maitre d'. This is about a man who has been a maitre d' in New York City for 30 years. It is very much like No Reservations by Anthony Bourdain, but front of house, sort of the other side of the kitchen. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed his quick-wittedness, his honesty. He's talking about sort of the grime and the unglamorous aspects of working front of house, while also talking about some of the glamorous aspects. He talks about celebrity encounters pretty truthfully for his experience. He comes out swinging in certain aspects. He's not afraid to talk about sort of his privilege as a white straight man in this industry. The only thing that I will say about this book that I didn't like was sometimes it could veer into sexism accidentally. I shouldn't say accidentally. I don't think that was his purpose or his intention, but sometimes it could come across as sexist in the way that he would describe women. So that's just something that I would say bothered me about this book. But overall, it was very interesting. I am always really fascinated by restaurants and fancy restaurants, even though I'm very rarely at them. I enjoyed this book a lot. Next, we're going to talk about The League of Gentlemen Witches by India Holton. The first book in the series of A Serious Society of Lady Scoundrels was one of my favorite books of 2022. I know. I told you one of my favorite books of 2022. I heard about it from my good friend Ileana, and this book was so fun. I read this book physically. I don't read a ton of books physically, but I've made it more of a priority for my mental health this year. So I read this book physically and I devoured it. It was such a delight. This book follows the other side, sort of the warring faction in this magical Victorian England. We have the pirates who fly houses that you see in the first book. And in this book, it's about witches. They're the more prim and proper between the pirates and the witches. They're the more prim and proper magic users. And it follows our main character who's supposed to basically take ownership of this society. As she gets older, she ends up falling in love with a pirate, and they go on this exciting mission to get this artifact. It is so much fun. It is funny, like actually laugh out loud funny. It is highly romantic. It is sweet. The world building is really cozy and magical and interesting. I can't tell you to read this series enough. And the third book comes out this year. I don't think I'm gonna wear this one through the video. Next, we're gonna talk about Girly Drinks, A World History of Women and Alcohol by Mallory O'Meara. This is a nonfiction title about, as you can guess it, alcohol, but specifically women and alcohol, because girl bosses drink too. Am I Right, Ladies? This book was really interesting. I was expecting it to be sort of a Western view of drinking, which I didn't really want to read, but I was surprised. It was definitely a worldview. I mean, she covers so much in a short amount of time and gets pretty detailed with certain stories. This was so fun. If you like history, if you like nonfiction, if you like microhistory, I think you're gonna enjoy this book. If you're someone who enjoys a beverage, you're gonna enjoy this book. I just had such a great time reading this. I really liked her perspective, and I liked the historical aspect of it. You get a little bit of her opinion in there, but also it's mostly facts. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Sneak attack, this one's gonna be normal. We're going to talk about Butts, a Backstory by Heather Radke. This is another nonfiction book about the history of the culture around your derriere. This was fine. I mean, it wasn't revelatory. It wasn't all that exciting. I thought it was more of like essays almost about butts. This sounds ridiculous. Than an interesting history about the culture around butts. There was some truth to that, and there was some truth to what I'm also saying. Does that make sense? What I mean by that was there are certain aspects of this book that I found very interesting, and there were things that I didn't know that I learned, but overall it did not blow me away. My butt was firmly seated on the ground, if you will. Next, we have Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This was so cute. I don't read much YA. If I read YA, it ends up being like a fantasy moment or a sci-fi moment. I don't read a ton of contemporary YA, but I love Talia Hibbert, so I had to give this one a read. This was very, very good. I think I said in my TikTok review that if you like John Green, specifically like Turtles All the Way Down and the OCD representation, you're gonna like this book. One of the main characters has OCD and is also bisexual. This book covers a really fun topic, which is highly motivated teens doing extracurriculars in order to further their future careers, which is something that I really liked when I was that age. This was sweet, it was fun, it was smart and short and sweet, and just left a happy taste in your mouth. And I will read a million Talia Hibbert YAs if she keeps writing them. Although, I do love her adult romance. Next, I read Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding. This was a sapphic romance about two women who enter a reality show where they have to convince their families and friends that they are going to get married after knowing each other for like no amount of time. They have to get married in 6 weeks and get their family to help them. If they get to the end of the aisle, they win money. Except for one of the women in this little duo, Chris, actually wants to fall in love. And Devon is not out to her family yet. It is a very sweet story. The fake dating is done really well. There's almost no miscommunication. There's not a third act sort of falling apart. It's just a sweet, fun, joyful ride. I liked the talk about family. It was very touching at times. I really enjoyed this book. If you like Four Weddings, like that TV show, it was like a sweet, not insane version of that, basically. Or maybe like 90 Day Fiancé as well, except for, again, not a insane version of that, if that makes sense. We're back. It's been a day, but we're back. The next book I want to talk about is Notes from a Young Black Chef by Kwame Onwuachi. This is a book about being a young Black chef in American fine dining, as the title suggests. Kwame was on Top Chef. He was quite good at it. I really liked him on Top Chef, and I was really excited to pick this up. I love reading books about the same topic, fine dining, for example, or high-end restaurants from different perspectives, different life experiences. Kwame's book was smart, it was interesting, it was honest, it was sad at times, and overall very inspiring and very real. I really enjoyed this book. If you like books about food, this is such a quick, very accessible, exciting, interesting, engaging thoughtful read, and I would really recommend it. If you're gonna read any of these books, Your Table is Ready, Girly Drinks, or Notes from a Young Black Chef, I would pick up Notes from a Young Black Chef first. Next, this was a recommendation from Ileana. I love her, gosh, queen. The book is called Hex Appeal. It's by Kate Johnson. I hadn't heard about this book, which shocked me because I love cozy fantasy, cozy magical books, but I loved this book so much and I want everyone to read it. It is about a man who moves to the UK from America. His father has just passed away and left all these properties for him in this small English town. He's sort of like in a transitional period in his life, so he goes there, and like the first night he is there, he meets this very beautiful, mysterious woman who he can't really get a read on. She happens to be a witch that's lived in a magical house with her coven for a very long time. And for most people who are outside of her coven, they don't remember her. They don't remember the house and they don't remember her. And this magical house only appears to those who need it. This house also happens to be one of the properties that the main character's father willed to him. This book has a time travel, mystery, excitement, really interesting conversations about consent and assault that I was not expecting. The book is warm, it's funny, it has all of these really cozy details. I loved it. If you're a fan of Aaron Sterling, if you're a fan of practical magic, like this kind of skirts those two sort of books, movies, pieces of media very well, and it's very good. Ooh, I gotta get comfortable. This is why I take breaks. Next, I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. I got this on a Libro FM audiobook sale. Y'all, Libro FM is great because, first of all, your money goes to indie bookstores, which is awesome, but also they have incredible sales. They'll have like a sale that just randomly, that'll be like titles that you have wanted to read forever, and you could get those titles for $4. So would highly recommend. Anyway, Daughter of the Moon Goddess is a Chinese mythology retelling about a young woman who lives with her mother in this sort of isolated world up in the stars because her mother is the moon goddess and has been sort of trapped there, cursed there, punished to be there, and our main character ends up having to run away from this world because the big baddies in charge, the kingdom at large, doesn't want her to have lived, basically. Am I explaining this well? Basically, she shouldn't have been born, but she was, so she's a secret. And she has to go away from her mother and decides in order to save her mother, get her mother out of her imprisonment, she will become the best warrior in this kingdom. And in doing so, she gets into a bit of a love triangle that's actually done very well. This book has really great characters. It's really fast-paced, but high fantasy, at least in my opinion. I really like the mythology. I liked our main character a lot. Just seeing her grow throughout the book was really exciting. I liked the romance. I thought it was done well. I thought the love triangle was done really well. And I love that this book's driving force is family. And I just really enjoyed this read. I thought it was excellent. It had the sort of beauty and vibe of a middle grade, that sort of like purity and like joy of storytelling that you find with the middle grade, with the fun of a young adult, new adult romance fantasy book. Like it did both very well. I loved this book and I would really recommend it. Shall we talk some Nora Roberts? Yes, we should. Leanna and I last year started reading Nora Roberts together, which is so funny because like it is my dream come true. Like I love it. And we've read a few together, but we decided to read one I've already read. She's reading it for the first time, but I read it quite a long time ago, and that's the Bride Quartet series by Nora Roberts. This is a 4-part series about 4 best friends who, when they're very young, become best friends, and when they get older, decide to start a wedding business together. And each woman has a different specialty, and each book follows one of the women as they fall in love. It does a lot of tropes throughout the series, but done in Nora Roberts' simple, cozy, camaraderie, found family, joyful, warm way that she does it. With Honora, you'll get snappy dialogue, you'll get really great friendship scenes, which is my favorite thing to read about. Some decent romance. The series in particular has some decent romance, better than some of her other books, and just a vibe that feels like a hug on a warm summer's day with a cool breeze. Yes. Vision in White is my favorite of the books. It is an amazing starter and definitely one of the best Nora Roberts romance. If you don't know this about me, I love Nora Roberts. I don't love Nora Roberts romance, meaning that I love everything about it, but the romance I rarely am like completely blown away by. But this one is very cute. It is about Max. She's a photographer in this business. She is very much, I'm never probably gonna fall in love because my mom has been married a lot of times and is kind of wild. And lo and behold, she ends up meeting our hero, a very cute, quirky, sweet English teacher at the high school. They actually knew each other when they were younger and he had a big crush on her, which I always love that trope. The romance is really sweet. It's a great introduction into this world. It is just a very fun, sweet, cute read. Anyway, I loved rereading this. It was so much fun. Next, I read Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. I love Celeste Ng. I will always read anything Celeste Ng writes. And this book was incredible and really cemented that. This book was narrated. The audiobook was narrated by Lucy Liu. I'm not always a huge fan of when celebrities do that, but she killed it and she was incredible, and this audiobook is incredible. If you're gonna pick this up, I honestly recommend the audiobook. Basically, this book is a near future dystopia that's honestly pretty similar to today. It is a world in which McCarthyism basically runs rampant and people get told on by the government, and the whole idea of it is protecting your children. And there's an event that happened that spurred this on that was very similar to COVID, but more specific to the economy. And a lot of what happened in this event that caused all this strife and turmoil was blamed on Asia and China, and so there's a lot of hate towards Asian people and people of Asian descent. So like what you have here is something very similar, but just like kicked up a few notches. Specifically when people are ratted out to the government, their children are taken away from them, or their children are put in foster care. And our main character's mother has disappeared and her father doesn't talk about it. And this little girl is trying to figure out what happened to her mother, and she goes on this quest to figure it out. All the while you end up hearing what happened to her mother and what her mother went through. This book is so beautiful and so smartly written. It's really exciting. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. I read it in one day. It was just like very gripping, very sad, very powerful, and has such an inspiring and really lovely message. And again, I would recommend it. So far, like most of these books, I would recommend, but this book was really, really beautiful, and I love Celeste Ng, and I will read everything she ever writes, truly. I have to take a big swig for this next part, the last part of this video. So if you don't already know, I talked about it at the beginning of this video, I'm more on TikTok than I am on BookTube. I'm trying to be better about BookTubing because it is my first love. But I have made such great mutuals and friendships on TikTok, which has been so fun because that's my favorite thing about BookTube as well. And my mutual Marin, who is an amazing book talker, she talks a lot about Star Wars, she talks about romance, fantasy, sci-fi. She's amazing. She's also an author. She's so cool. She reached out to me to buddy read all of the Shatter Me books by Tahereh Mafi. I read the Shatter Me books the first three when I was like the start of college, end of high school. So it's been a very long time. I said yes. I actually reread Shatter Me like a year and a half ago for a video on this channel. So I didn't reread that one, but I did read everything else. Destroy Me 1.5, Unravel Me, Shatter Me 2, Fracture Me, Shatter Me 2.5, Ignite Me, Shatter Me 3, and then this is when I had not read any of them. I had not read the novellas either, but I had not read the novels, these novels. Restore Me, Shatter Me 4, Shadow Me, Shatter Me 4.5, Shadow Me, Shatter Me, Shadowy Shadow Me, Shatter Me 5, Reveal Me, Shatter Me 5.5, Imagine Me, Shatter Me 6, And believe me, Shatter Me 6.5. First of all, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, which is these are the ugliest covers to ever grace God's green earth. At some point you would have thought, like, somebody would have been like, maybe we should redo the covers. And I know that they had already redone the first cover, which I used to own, like the original with Juliet on the cover, which I think is way better than whatever these eyeballs are. It's giving you're in art class in middle school and the only thing you know how to draw is an eye, but you're really good at drawing an eye. That's the vibes. Okay, let's just get into it because I'm losing light fastly approaching the light being gone. I really loved reading these with Marin. We had such a great time. We bonded, we laughed. It was fun. These books, though, are not good. Which is so funny because I have read Tahereh Mafi books that I really liked. I love Furthermore, which is one of her middle grade books. I've read a couple of her contemporary novels that I thought were really excellent. This series, I think, suffers from a combination of the publisher being like, money, keep writing, girl. And Tahereh just like going for it. You know what I mean? Truly just going for it. The love triangle is fine until it is completely like thrown away in these 3 extra novels. The characterization, I think, quickly becomes really vanilla, 2D, uninteresting. I also struggle with the fact that everybody has to get a buddy. Everybody has to get partnered up. Like, I just thought that was a little ridiculous and felt a little squished in. I had trouble with the way the characters would flip-flop from their very 2D personas into something that wasn't 2D, but it felt really random. Everybody talked in purple prose. Everybody was so poetic. It made sense for Juliet. It made sense for her. It didn't make sense for Kenji to talk that way. It didn't make sense for Adam to talk that way. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the fact that they were all teenagers and they were moving so quickly through these relationships. Like Juliet gets engaged at 17, and the way that Warner sort of justifies him being 20 and her being 17 and them getting engaged and them being so young is that, you know, in this world, it isn't normal. They're not normal teenagers. But the thing that confuses me about the world building is that these characters remember as kids a normal world, a semi-normal world. So my thing is like, I would get it if it had been this way for like 50 years, but it's been like 10 to 12 years. I don't know. That was something that bothered me. I thought that the last book was so useless and just very uninteresting the way it ended and fell off. I had trouble with how weak the relationships were other than Warner and Juliet. Like that one I kind of got. They were like that meme, like that Vine of those 2 people in like the Starbucks or the Panera Bread. That's their vibe. And I was like, well, I guess that's their vibe. I just, you know, I don't get it. I don't get how these books are still popular. Like, I kind of got it for the time period, but I don't understand it now. So if anyone wants to explain it to me other than it's spicy YA, because also, oh my God, that novella, the last book, what? How is this YA too? Like these books are not YA, they're new adult. Like the content is new adult. Anyway, that's a whole different topic, but yeah, read them all, did that, experienced that. Okay, so that's everything that I've read so far in 2023. I am at some point going to be posting a little reading book talk books because I've read a few recently or I'm working through some recently. Also, do want to talk about some books that I haven't gotten to talk about yet on this channel that I read. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're happy to see my face. I'm happy to see yours in my mind. Okay, all right. Bye.